to thank you for coming today to the second installment of Techpoint.org's presentation called Jobs in Tech 101. You're going to find out a lot of great information today. And without further ado, here's Al Carroll.
Thank you very much. Like she said, my name is Al Carroll. I am the University Activation Senior Manager at Techpoint. So today we're going to talk about Jobs in Tech 101, but first I want to tell you a little bit about what Techpoint is and kind of why we have some credibility in this space, right? So Techpoint is a nonprofit, industry-led growth accelerator for the technology ecosystem in Indiana. We believe that cities and states need strong tech ecosystems, and further, we bring together Indiana's tech companies, philanthropies, universities, and government to help accelerate and create opportunity, okay? We consider ourselves to be the ecosystem operating system. So usually when I go around campus and I say, like, we're a part of the tech ecosystem, people are like, I know what ecosystem means, and I know what technology means, but when you use them together, I'm not so sure, right? Like, so we believe that there are 7 key ingredients to a thriving tech ecosystem. You start with talent, okay? That talent brings about innovation. That innovation brings in more capital, and you can use that capital to start companies, okay? And from there, those companies can then be used to hire more talent. So you have to get the flywheel spinning. You have to have a connected and informed community that surrounds each one of those areas. Further, you have to use research and strategy to guide your policy and guide and govern your policy and decision making in each one of those areas. And then finally, you have to use promotion to tell the great stories about all the things that you're doing in the area, right? So Techpoint, as a whole, has operations in each one of these areas. I work in the talent division, and that's why I'm out here talking to you all today. We are also a part of the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership. So there's a consortium of nonprofit organizations that make up or represent each one of Indiana's primary industries. So you have Agrinovus, which is agriculture. Ascend Indiana, which actually is a workforce development initiative that is cross-cutting, so they work with everyone. Bio Crossroads, which is life sciences. Connexus, which is manufacturing, logistics, and defense. ESN, which is Energy Systems Network. You probably know them best from the Blue Indy cars. So if you see the Blue Indy cars, that's exactly what they do. And then Techpoint. So we consider Techpoint to be not only just an industry vertical, but also an industry horizontal. Tech is cutting across every industry in Indiana. And this is a great time for you all to get involved and start learning a little bit more about what you can do in tech. So what is tech? This is always a good place to start the conversation as well. So we consider tech to be broken down into 4 key areas, right? So you have a tech product. Tech product companies are actually building a physical product or software or something that they sell, and that's how they make money. So you have some examples here, like Salesforce, HC1.com, or Teradata. Tech service companies use their expertise and their time to make money. So thinking of like IT consulting firms, similar to Apparatus or Kinney Group, who I've just heard will be at your career fair. So that's pretty great. And then tech infrastructure companies. So these are organizations that help enable us to do business, right? So you talk about data centers or your cell phone networks, right? Tech infrastructure. And then finally, we have tech-enabled companies, which is everyone else. So we believe that if you use technology to enable your business, you are a tech company. So there's a couple different organizations on here that you probably wouldn't expect or consider to be a tech company, right? Like Cummins, for example. Large diesel engine manufacturer out of Columbus, right? You guys have all heard of them, I'm sure. Cummins is actually one of the largest IT employers in the state. They have well over 3,000 IT employees. Okay, similar with Eli Lilly, about 1,500 IT employees. Sally Mae as well. So, does that make sense? Okay, this is going to be an interactive presentation. So I know the folks online that are joining us. Jessica is taking questions and everything. So if you have questions and they come up, please feel free to send them out, and then she will let me know. And you all that are in the room as well, as it makes sense. Whenever you feel like, the spirit moves you, right? Go ahead and ask a question. I am okay. All right. So this is a quote from our CEO. Tech companies need makers, marketers, and managers. I think that is probably the most critical thing that we're trying to communicate in this Jobs in Tech 101 presentation, right? Like tech companies are businesses, and businesses need the same thing that any other business or any other traditional business would need to function. And that's really what we're trying to come out here and talk about today. All right. So we're going to define jobs in tech. In this presentation, you're going to hear about job functions, so what people actually do in these roles. You're going to talk about the skills and competencies, so what skills are needed to fill these roles. You're also going to get some real examples of people who work in tech, okay? So we're going to start with some tech skill jobs. Specifically, we're going to dive into product development, IT and cybersecurity, and then technical and customer support. So these are real roles that folks are hiring for right now in Indianapolis. So we'll start with product development. So if you love building products, automating inefficiencies or squashing problems, and building software to do your bidding, then this is probably a good spot for you to be in, okay? Some typical job titles that you might expect to see here are software engineer, DevOps engineer, quality assurance engineer, Scrum Master, and automation developer, okay? Typical day in software engineering might include attending a morning Scrum meeting. Does anybody know what Scrum is? Someone tell me a little bit more about that? Yeah, Hannah.
They use the software like Jira or something, and then everybody tells what they're going to do, and then they sort of...
Very good. It's a method for people to get organized, right? So it's a way for you to have a structure to completing work. So a Scrum meeting is basically a stand-up meeting where in 15 minutes in the morning you get up and say what you're going to do for the day, and then the next day you validate what you did and do the same thing, right? It's a way for everybody to kind of know what folks are working on. They like to also check in with my product manager to discuss objectives to accomplish during the next sprint meeting period. With no afternoon meetings, get ready to code, and then opening and managing several support tickets, right? So building the solution that other folks have identified. Product development is the lifeblood of a tech organization, and they provide critical services. So tech company. So you might be the right fit if you have strong reasoning abilities and enjoy critical thinking. If you're curious about how things work and you're a tenacious problem solver or a voracious learner, this is definitely something that is a lifelong learning type of environment to be in. I see most of the software engineers that I know really have a really strong background in learning different languages because tech moves really fast, right? So it's really important that you have a strong foundation and you can also pick up and learn new things pretty quickly. Again, just like that last one, if you can pick up new things very quickly, you're probably in the right spot. Okay? Let me back up and talk just a little bit more about software engineering. Typically in software engineering, you either have to have a 4-year degree in computer science or you have to have gone through a pretty intensive coding boot camp. So this is definitely, I think that software engineering is definitely a place where you have to prove that you've got the skills necessary. So a lot of times when you're doing these roles, they'll have some sort of a coding interview or coding challenge to be able, so you can be able to establish and display your skills. Anybody have any questions for me about software engineering? I'll say that this is going to be pretty high level. Okay, so we also have a resource online. Currently, because of the live stream, I can't show you the online resource, but it is definitely a fantastic resource for you to go to right after you get out of this and really explore some of these different options on your own as well. IT and cybersecurity. So I know I had a couple of cybersecurity folks in the room, and Jessica, please just let me know if there's anything that comes up online as well. But if you love building and maintaining the security of complex computer networks and databases, cybersecurity could be a good spot for you. Some of the different job titles that you would see in an IT or cybersecurity space would be network and system administrators, business analysts, technical architects, or cybersecurity administrators. Okay? DePauli is a good friend of mine who works at Eli Lilly. Her path was she had a bachelor's degree in biology and majored in computer science as well. She did our internship program for Lilly and then ultimately ended up as an IT analyst at Eli Lilly. So this is directly from her. So her day starts with her sitting in on troubleshooting meetings with customer service and software development leaders. Further, she maintains the software with the latest updates to block third-party and partner application backdoor vulnerabilities. Okay. She identifies and manages vulnerabilities within the internal tech environment. And then finally, she answers technical questions from fellow team members and customers of the public. All right. So you might be the right fit here if you have the ability to come up with unique solutions to complex problems. Further, you have to be able to follow a stringent set of procedures. I think that's probably the most underrated or undervalued skill that I think is critical for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is really a place where it's about certifications and showing that you understand the process that's already laid out. So this isn't necessarily the best place to go if you're thinking about being super creative, right? Cybersecurity is definitely around protection and kind of knowing how things work and how to protect them. So if you have strong reasoning and analytical abilities and also feel comfortable presenting ideas in front of others, this could be a good spot for you. All right? Further, IT support. So I will say that I think that there's a ton of opportunity in support. I think that support is also a great spot to go if you have interest in technology, but you're not all that technical. So if you love engaging with people, via phone and email to solve problems, or working closely with clients and team members, I think support is a great spot. It's also a fantastic place to start, okay? So a lot of folks like to promote within. So starting in customer support, showing that you have a solid background in understanding of what the product is, people like to promote from there to move on. So some typical job titles that you might see in a support role are customer user support specialist, help desk analyst, or customer service coordinators. Their typical job functions are serve as a customer-facing expert, so you have to know the product really in-depth and well, install basic hardware and software packages, and further identify potential issues with customers and computer systems. Answering technical questions, so on. This is a quote directly from President Elsperman. As technology companies continue to grow and spawn in Indianapolis and across the state, and as IT becomes the backbone of almost every major industry, it is critical that Ivy Tech have both the right programs and the scale Indiana needs. So I would say that this is definitely an area that that Ivy Tech is growing into, and that there's definitely a lot of opportunities here as well. So if you enjoy engaging with people, you might be the right fit. If you're able to reliably meet deadlines for users, this could be a good spot for you as well. And you have to also be able to effectively prioritize tasks, but I think that's going to be consistent across the board. All right. You can apply your knowledge to novel situations and tasks. So when you have an issue with one customer, you have to know and understand that even though another customer might not be explaining it the same way, it's definitely a similar issue. And desire to use your strong reasoning and analytical abilities as well. Again, great place to start from a tech company. A lot of room for growth starting. So a typical day might include escalating certain enterprise customer issues to management. You can join a conference call with a customer to hear about their experience using one of your products, manage customer challenges and expectations with internal teams, and prepare a report for your leadership team that identifies and supports teams to better affect customer success. All right. So you might be the right fit here if you have respect for clients and team members, if you enjoy engaging with people via phone and email to solve their problems, effectively prioritize tasks and meet deadlines, and otherwise have strong reasoning and analytical abilities. You can see that that's something that's pretty consistent across the board in tech-related jobs. So before I transition to business skill jobs, what questions do we have in the room about the tech jobs? I see a lot of skeptical faces looking back at me. So. Anyone? Doesn't look like there's any right now, but that's fine. I'm sure there will be more as we keep going. As far as business skill jobs in tech goes, I know we talked about it at the beginning of the presentation, but it's real, right? Like these tech companies are businesses, right? So they need accountants, they need marketers, they need managers, they need everything that a typical tech business might need. So I know a lot of the folks in here are heavy IT majors, but it's just something to think about, right? I also think that to the extent that you have an interest in technology, but business-related skills, right, this is going to be a great spot for you. So today we're going to talk about customer success, which is going to sound a whole lot like support. Customer success is probably one of my favorite, or at least the area I like to talk about the most, because I graduated like 5 years ago, and there was no one talking about customer success, right? So it's like an entirely new function or job or division in companies that it's basically been identified and prioritized over the course of the last 5 years. Tons of opportunity here. Finally, also sales. Sales is a tremendous on-ramp for folks that are interested in working in tech to kind of get in and prove themselves, right? So if you don't have that technical background, but you are interested or otherwise competitive, we'll get back into it. Sales is another great area. And then otherwise, HR and office administration, okay? So let's jump in. Customer success. If you enjoy building relationships and take pride in being the voice of the customer success is definitely a spot for you. Again, it's going to sound a lot like support. So different roles you see here: customer success manager, engagement manager, implementation manager, customer support representative, or otherwise technical account manager. Kara is a great example here. So Kara's degree path included getting an integrated communication degree at Butler, and then she worked in e-commerce at the Weaver Popcorn Company. Finally, she was the client success director at Smarter, which is now Smarter HQ, and now she's vice president of client services at Smarter HQ. So pretty interesting path there, but you'll notice it didn't start at all with anything technical, right? She just had a tech interest. So Kara's day includes sending an email to customers answering questions about support features, She likes to sit on client calls with her colleagues to compare the strategies for measuring customer engagement, which is important, right? Like it's one thing to understand where your customers are, but to understand how they're using your work and how they're engaging with your products is really critical. Actively engage customers with content that will help them utilize the products and features better. And then read an article about how agile management can be used with customers onboarding. Right? So you might be the right fit here if you enjoy building relationships and helping people. I think that building client relationships is a major part of customer success. Right? You're going to be on the front line, so even more maybe than the salespeople who are kind of like the folks that kind of get them in the door. You're going to be the folks that keep them in the door. Right? Have the technical ability to learn software. So I think that this is definitely still technical, right? So you have to have an interest in tech here, but it's not necessarily going to be the full part of all that you do every day, right? You're not going to be sitting at a computer all day just coding. You'll understand it. You'll be able to communicate it, but you'll still be on the phones talking to people. Enjoy understanding how something works and have the ability to help customers understand the best way to use products. Again, this is one of my favorite roles. I think if I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now, this is definitely the area that I'd be in. Sales. Okay, so literally today, I just got out of my sales boot camp program. So we have a sales bootcamp program that lasts for 6 weeks, where we train folks on how to sell software. And I had 13 folks that took through that 6-week cohort. 10 of them already have jobs, right? And then the last 3 actually had their interviews today, right? They had interviews with 7 different companies. Okay, so when I tell you that sales is a huge opportunity, especially here in Indianapolis right now, I'm not kidding. Right? Like I literally in the last 2 weeks, probably past 5 days. We got 13 people hired in sales. Okay, tremendous opportunity and a great on-ramp into tech companies. So if you are a competitor with a will to win and a knack for influencing and building relationships with people, sales could be for you. And when I say sales, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but your face. And when I say sales, you're like, nah, I got a hard pass, right? Yeah, no, I feel you. And I think that in a lot of cases, like people get sales gets a bad rap because what we're all thinking of is like the used car salesman, right? Like somebody that we don't necessarily want to deal with. You don't want somebody to push something on you that you don't want, right? But I think that selling software is a little bit different, right? And I think selling software is specific to solving a specific problem, right? Like you're calling these people who are in a specific industry, they have a problem, and you have the solution that's going to help them. And I think that to the extent that you can prove that you have that competitive will to win, you can fill a quota. There's a lot of other jobs that you can do for being able to display that kind of responsibility. So sales is a tremendous way to start a career in tech. So some typical job titles that you might see here are sales development representative, account executive, or sales engineer for more of the technical roles. Margarita Barnes was a participant in our sales bootcamp program, maybe, I think, not this past time, but a year ago. So she studied psychology with a double major in criminal justice and Spanish, right? So something that's completely non-technical. But she's competitive, right? She has that will to win, and really has a good, she had a great psychographic test for sales. So she did social work before and elder care, right? And then she participated in our program, and now she's a sales development representative at Renaissance Electronic Services. All right, and she's killing the game right now. So making good money and also making a big impact on her company. Okay, so her day includes formatting a list of prospects to upload to our customer relationship management software. She likes to hop on calls with the sales engineer to explain new technical integration that will solve prospective clients' needs. She likes to prep for prospecting call by researching the individual that she's working with or the company and their competitors. And she likes to commit a solid 2 hours of just cold calling, right? Calling prospects, all right? So you might be the right fit here if you have strong communication skills and feel comfortable speaking in front of others. You have a competitive spirit, which I think is the #1 aspect that makes people successful in sales, right? Like sometimes there's a lot of people telling you no, so you gotta want to continue to keep going, even see some negative responses, right? If you have the foresight to predict future problems and know how to ask the right questions, knowing how to ask the right question, I think, is probably another critical area in sales, right? It's finding pain, finding that what's the one thing that you guys that the customer has a problem with that you can actually solve, right? And enjoy working with people always. It's all about working with people. And finally, HR and office admin. Okay. So if you have a passion for making sure the workplace is functional, comfortable, and efficient, HR and office admin is a great place to start as well. Okay, so one thing you might see here is human resources manager, talent recruiter, which is what I do, and administrative assistant. Okay, Allie McCord is a great example here. She works for Scale Computing. So she got her bachelor's in tourism and convention and event management. She was a customer service rep at Anthem, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and then an office coordinator at Blue Pillar. Now she's the executive assistant to the CEO at Scale Computing. When we were talking last week at the last presentation, I think that a lot of people kind of turn their nose up to like secretarial work. I think that administrative assistant work is very different than what you might think of like if you watched Mad Men and you're thinking about like what their secretaries did, right? And a lot of times I see these roles come up as like operations, right? Or operations assistant or like direct assistant to the CEO. Like tech, when we're talking about tech companies, these guys are really busy. I think to the extent that if you are interested at all in entrepreneurship and like being an entrepreneur in the future, I think learning as much as you can from directly serving an entrepreneur is a great way to get an entree into what that kind of a job takes. So something to consider. Alia's day includes checking email first thing in the morning to see if today's meetings are rescheduled or if anything has changed. She gets the conference room ready for today's investor meeting and creates agendas and prepping audio, visual, and technical setup. She makes new nameplates for our new staff, for folks that are arriving that are new, and she likes to prepare the email to go out for briefing notes to the board meeting. Okay. So you might be the right fit here if you have strong communication skills, if you're able to support company goals, so if you have compassion for others and a willingness to listen. I think that these roles are really about making the office work better, right? Enabling everybody else to get their work done, right? High emotional intelligence and conflict resolution, and are able to present a positive company image. So a lot of times these people are the front lines. I've heard them also called like directors of first impressions, right? There's all sorts of different names that you can see here, but it's all kind of the same thing, coming back to making sure that everybody's delivering, that your office or your employer is delivering a positive experience for the people that you work with. So that is kind of what I have to cover, okay, as it relates to specific jobs. The next part of my presentation is going to tell you a little bit about what's all happening in Indianapolis, what I think is really exciting and also really important for you to know, folks that live in Indianapolis or in Indiana in general. So anybody have any questions about jobs? Now, there are 11 different occupations and occupation families that we cover on our website, which is techpoint.org/jobs-in-tech. Jessica will send you out the link after this presentation, so you don't have to worry about remembering it or writing it down. But it is a tremendous resource where you'll actually get to go in and see some of the profiles of some of these folks that I've highlighted here today. So before I move on, what questions do you have?
What is TechPoint's involvement in the big data, artificial intelligence, business intelligence sector?
Big data, artificial. So what do you mean, like our involvement?
Using, like you mentioned, like a lot of different IT jobs. It seems like you kind of skipped over that sector. But I'm just curious. A lot of us are informatics majors. So kind of seems a little personal.
Right. So we have data science as a role that is in my presentation, like it's online. You can actually go in and explore in a lot more detail. Just given the amount of time that I have, I only pick a few, so I can't dive deep into what's going on. But there's definitely opportunities here as it relates to data science, and it's definitely an area that you can kind of explore more. As far as our relationship goes, there's definitely companies that we use that are members of TechPoint that have different roles in data science or otherwise data administration. Demand Jump is one that comes to mind. And then as far as like the big data conference, which is what I thought you were referring to, we're partners that help them advertise those different opportunities as well.
Thank you.
How many employer partners do you have?
Yeah, so we have I think 70 official members, and then there's over 600, nearly 700 different organizations that have profiles on our tech directory. So again, as you explore techpoint.org, you can definitely see about 700 different organizations across Indiana, both tech product, tech service, tech infrastructure, and tech-enabled companies, where you can actually explore more details about all those employers. Does that get to the heart of it? Yeah, sure.
What does it
mean for a company to be a member of TechPoint? Or be
Great question. That's fantastic. So TechPoint has partnerships with local government, with universities, as well as companies. So from a company perspective, we help them with promotion, we help them with talent, we can help find, if for earlier stage or smaller companies, we actually help them find venture capital dollars to help them grow. So there's all different, people join TechPoint for different reasons, but essentially that public partnership along with company investment, along with university investment, really just enables us to do the work that we do. So we believe that everybody kind of has to have some skin in the game, right? So because this is the work that we're doing is benefiting everyone. So that's kind of, does that answer your question? Yeah, for sure. So back to the 7 key ingredients, we work in each one of those areas, and really I think a lot of folks use this for the promotion of it, right? So we can help amplify some of the work that they're doing. Great question. Jessica.
I asked this last week.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that everybody hears this. What are some of the top programming languages that companies are looking for at the entry level?
Absolutely. So one that I hear a lot is Ruby on Rails. And that's something that's been around a lot, but I know that it's not one that's taught in a lot of curriculums around the state. So there are definitely different avenues that you can go about finding that. I'd say React is another one that I hear quite a bit, which is a JavaScript-based language created by Facebook. And I say JavaScript-based languages as well are good places to go. So whether it's React, Angular, things like that. Other than that, I think it's hard to say. I don't want to tell you 5 and then have you all go out and focus on those 5. I can't find any job to do that, right? I think the main thing to focus on when you're talking about programming languages is learning how to learn a language, right? So there might be, there's going to be a time where if you're working for a specific company, that's going to be something that they use. But again, as technology improves or otherwise it develops, you're going to have to learn something new pretty quickly as well. So I would say the main focus would be learning how to learn languages quickly, more so than having a specific one that's going to be your bread and butter for the rest of your life, right? I wouldn't necessarily depend on it for longer than 5 to 10 years. Okay, great question. What other questions? Yes.
Mike, do I have to be a member of the TechPoint as a student or?
No, you already are. So Ivy Tech is a member of TechPoint. So
okay.
You got all the same benefits that anybody else would.
Yeah, their website is incredibly comprehensive and constantly updated, and we're working on getting more of a partnership, so you guys get the information that's posted up on TechPoint on a regular basis.
But yeah, everything that's like I said, we're a nonprofit organization, really funded in part by the Indiana state government. So it's information that's openly free and openly available to everyone. As a matter of fact, all of our programs are 100% totally free to students as well.
The Sales Boot Camp is?
100% free.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even get paid while you're going through it. So.
Do you want to spend a little bit of time talking about the extern program?
I can,
Just
for
like
sure.
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we do an internship program with, it's called Extern. It's a 10-week paid internship with one of 65 different tech companies here in town. And of those organizations, so that process, we recruit for that process in the fall. The process is fairly simple, but it is competitive. So you would apply in the fall, and then we will do an initial resume review, essentially trying to find out if you're going to be involved or what kind of leadership kind of capabilities you have. From there, we'll invite you to complete a work sample assessment, which is essentially for folks that have interviewed before, it's like a coding interview. For the business skill roles, it's more of a case study, but essentially it is something that's going to allow you to produce a work product that is similar to what you would produce in an internship. Okay, and then we turn that over to university professors as well as industry professionals to grade and rank. So if you make it through that ranking, then you'll have your application sent to all 65 of the companies. Okay, your application and materials go to everyone. And from there, the companies will then select who they'd like to interview with, and if you are selected, you get invited out to where you're in Indianapolis. I usually give this elsewhere. So you get invited down to the Biltwell or just downtown to a large event space where you'll get an opportunity to interview with 3 to 4 companies all in one day. So that's actually a really tremendous experience. We put on about 700 interviews in one day, and at the end of the day, people know where they're going to be. So it's a pretty interesting and intense experience. But again, while you're with us for the summer, we're doing social activities, civic engagement activities, and then professional networking opportunities to get you kind of out into the environment and make sure you're meeting a lot more people. So it's a tremendous program. Again, 100% free. Free housing, free everything, and you get paid while you're there. So it's not a bad gig at all. That role is always on Hire Ivy. Whenever it goes live, we'll be recruiting actively for that for extern in August. So if you're still around in August, or if you transfer or whatever, it is definitely going to be an opportunity that is available to everyone. So definitely check us out in a few weeks there.
Is the recruiting period start like August 1st to?
August 1st to October.
Okay.
So like maybe it's first or second week of October.
We'll make sure that we get that.
Do you have any internship program for like summer?
So yeah, we do. So the internships are in the summer. We just only recruit in the fall. So we've already recruited for this summer coming up.
Oh, okay.
But this fall 2019, he'll start recruiting for
summer
summer
2020.
2020.
All right. What other questions? That's great. So I'm going to talk for another 15 minutes or so. So I'm sure other questions will come up. But this is the part that I think is the most exciting, right? Like Indianapolis is a phenomenal place for tech, and it's not necessarily something that you would think about or know about because we're not on the coast, right? We're not, but there's a lot of things happening here. Specifically, over the course of the last 10 years, there's been $7 billion worth of investment in the form of acquisitions and IPOs in tech companies in Indianapolis. Thank you. None of you are impressed, right? Like $7 billion is a lot of money, right? You guys are like, whatever. No, $7 billion is a lot of money, okay? One of the major transactions that have transpired from there is ExactTarget, right? So ExactTarget was bought out by Salesforce about 4 years ago. And that's completely changed the face of our city, right? Like the largest building in Indiana now has a tech company name on top of it.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big deal. That's very different than some other Midwest cities. That was a lot of people don't realize this, but that was a $2.5 billion transaction, right? So at the end of the day, all the people that have equity in that company, when that deal was signed, there's 100 new millionaires sitting at the table. 100 people had over $1 billion, right? That's crazy. So if you can imagine, when you have that kind of influx of wealth, what would you do, right? Like that enables you to chase your dreams, right? That enables you to do a lot of stuff that you probably previously couldn't. That's what we've seen, right? Those folks didn't just like retire away, like you give me a couple mil, I'm gone, right? You might not see me again, okay? But these folks started new organizations, they started new companies, and they need talent like yourselves to help them to grow, okay? Other things that are happening here. Last year, the Indiana state government decided to put $250 million into startups, right? So this is the next level fund. The governor and the state legislature, maybe even before that, right? So this is the Mitch McConnell's administration. So about 8 to 9 years ago, they put aside $500 million into the highway fund to make sure that Indiana wouldn't have to have toll roads. Basically, when government invests that kind of money, they put them into like the bond market, which doesn't have that great of a return. So the governor, as well as the state legislature, thought that they could take about half of that money and invest it into companies that would give them a higher level of return. So they actually hired a venture capital company to manage their portfolio, and they're investing into companies all over the country. So not just in Indiana companies, but in companies around the Midwest. Okay, but the end result of that is that when that deal is done, when there's other deals that they're a part of, Indiana is going to be one of those billionaires sitting at the table. Right? That's very interesting. I can tell you right now that is the most money any state has committed to venture capital. Okay, tell you just a little telling about where Indiana is going, kind of where the direction is. All right, you guys have heard of Amazon, small logistics company out of Washington?
Yeah.
You guys have heard about them? So they just recently did a search for their second headquarters, and they named the top 20 cities where they would possibly go. It is a big deal for Indianapolis to be on this list. We surprised a lot of people showing up here. And I keep this slide in here even now that they announced where they were going, because recently New York City, they announced that they were going to go to New York and D.C. And then New York, that deal just fell through. Right, so they're probably going to have somewhere else for those jobs to go. So I would say that we're still a compelling place, right? So it's something to think about. I think that as a result of this, we're going to have a lot more companies looking here, right? So I would say that to keep an eye out for some potential announcements of other people moving, and I'll tell you a little bit more about why in a couple slides. Springbok just announced like one of the largest Series B rounds of fundings ever. So $20 million and 100 new jobs. And this is why, right, the advantage. So we are one of the 50 largest metros, or 50 metros with the largest digital employment. There's some folks up here that aren't surprises, right? San Francisco and San Jose, this is the valley. Like Silicon Valley, when they're talking about that, that's what that is, right? So they're far and away leading the pack. Austin, Texas is one that you've heard of. In Texas in general, a lot of opportunity going on there. But number 6 on that list, Indianapolis, right? That surprised a lot of people. Number 6 in the country as far as digital employment goes. So something to think about. And we don't have this problem, right? So this is what's going on in San Francisco right now. This is a real listing from Zillow, okay? $1.6 million, that is 900 square foot house. So I kid you not, for $1.6 million, put it into Zillow right now in Indianapolis, you can get a basketball court in your house for $1.6 million. So that's a $6,000 a month mortgage, and you're living on top of a garage, all right? So right, that's real. That's very real. So that's kind of benefit that we're offering to folks that the valley isn't. And then I'm actually going to Austin on Saturday, right? And this is not. I'm not looking forward to this. This is just Austin on a Tuesday. I'm going to Austin for a conference, so it's going to be a lot worse than that. But this is real. Now I know coming into here, turning into the Ivy Tech campus right now, the traffic in Indy isn't necessarily one that we can highlight at this very moment. But I think that all the work that we're doing right now is going to make it so much better for us here in the next 2, 3, 5 years, right? So we're making that investment now, but we don't have this problem, right? They are stuck, right? Like we have a lot of room in the area to grow. And finally, Indianapolis is the #1 city, the #1 of America's sweet spot cities where job opportunity and housing affordability intersect. Okay, so from a perspective of being able to have a high quality of life and a lot of access to a lot of jobs, right? A lot of things going on here. There's no better place in the country to be than Indianapolis right now. So something to think about. Again, it costs about $20 million less to run your company in Indianapolis than it would in San Francisco. Okay, so when we talk about companies moving or other opportunities coming here, when you're talking about a cool 20 mil, that's going to be compelling to a lot of businesses. And we've already seen businesses do it, right? Work Security, for my cybersecurity people in the room, they moved from San Francisco. Aperio, again, moved their headquarters from San Francisco, and they're not going to be the last company to do that, all right? And then finally, if you wouldn't mind, so this is where I will stop. So if you could take some time today to help me get a little better at this presentation, I would love for your feedback in our survey. So if you could pull your phone out right now and take a couple minutes to help me get better, I would really appreciate that. So here it is, tinygrow.com Jobs and Tech Survey. That would be really helpful for me in my improvement. And while you're doing that, I will take any other questions that you have. That is all I got. All right. Yes?
Aside from the obvious job listings that you guys do on your website,
yeah,
what other opportunities do you have for finding jobs and job placement, whether that's events or events?
Okay. So on the community events page on our website, we have all of the tech-related events that are open to the community, open to the public listed. We also have an email that goes out twice a week that updates you on all things that are happening. So it's not only stories, it's stories, jobs, and events. So I would say that we, more than like putting on events, and we put on specific events to help our program participants connect to jobs. Other than that, I think that the community events page is probably the best way to kind of plug in to find out like different meetups and stuff that are going on around town that might help you network and find another opportunity. Did that answer your question? I asked you to do a survey, and then I asked you to ask me questions. So everybody's focused on the survey. So that's cool. Yeah, Jessica.
What do you think the chances are that will be reconsidered for the Amazon second-hand?
Low. If I'm being completely honest, I think it's going to be low. I think that from what I've read, they're not necessarily they're going to like spread those jobs out, or they haven't announced where else they're going. So I'd imagine that DC office might grow a little bit, and then maybe that Nashville office will grow a little bit, but. I don't think that, if I'm being 100% honest, I'm not sure that we have a really strong chance, but I know that we're still interested, and I know that like our senator and our governor both said Indianapolis would be interested in having them if they're going to reconsider. I think that's the case, right? I think that we were very open, at least from the tech sector perspective, we're all very open to them coming. I think that the response here would be a little different than the response was in New York, which was, frankly for me, was unexpected.
Yeah.
You do? Yeah, for sure. You guys are really doing the survey, which I really appreciate. What other questions? Does it seem too good to be true? Did you know that this was happening in your backyard? Were you guys aware that this much activity is going on?
No.
No? Some people shaking yes, yeah.
What are the qualifications for a company to join TechPoint?
What are the qualifications for them to be a part of our,
yeah.
to be a member?
And how many do you onboard a year, would you say, on average?
I would say about 5 to 10 net new every year. Qualifications is an interesting word. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if qualifications is how I would say it. Like so,
sure.
From a community perspective, I think that it's a big tent, right? Like we want more folks to be involved. But also we have to be cognizant of the size of our team. So we're a small and mighty team. We want to be able to deliver a lot of value for those organizations that come on. So we can't invite everybody because we can't serve everybody, right? So I would say that is probably the biggest thing is like how can we actually help you, right? Like we're not going to have a bunch of people sign up and give us a bunch of money and then not do anything for them. So I think that's probably the bigger question that we would ask is like, how can we help you this year? Like, and do we have the capacity to actually do that?
So it's not like size dependent on the company.
I don't want to tell you no, but I also don't think that it is.
Okay.
Because we have companies of all different sizes, right? And they need different things from us. So it's kind of case by case.
Cool. Sorry if that's a quick question.
No, I'm glad you asked. This is not something I had thought about really. I know that I don't know how often we turn people away, but I also know that we don't. Everybody isn't a member.
What specific IT jobs do you see the most of on your job board?
Oh my gosh, that's an interesting question as well. I think right now the most jobs are sales. I see a lot of sales jobs, and I also see there are a lot of jobs that require 3 to 5 years of experience as well. So from a new job perspective, I think that like customer success and sales are where I see a lot of opportunity. I also see a handful of support jobs. Where do I don't aggregate them all that often. I'll be honest. I think the other day when we looked, there was a lot of support jobs, right?
There was.
And a lot of customer success jobs as well. But sales, I think, is I'm telling you from the conversation that I've had even today, there are people that are just itching to find folks to do some of their entry-level sales roles. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably where I would see the most immediate opportunity, which is great, right? Like if you're growing your sales department, you're ideally trying to grow your business. So hopefully from there, those salespeople will be able to fund some other roles to come into. Yes.
How did you end up at TechPoint, and why are you excited about tech?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. So I started my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers. You guys are familiar? It's a large accounting firm, and I'll tell you right now, working for accountants is a little bit more fun than you expect. Just not that much more fun, right? Like it's more fun than you think. It wasn't for me. So I actually signed up for the newsletter. Started getting jobs. Like I wasn't necessarily happy, and I wanted to do something different. And one of my friends was like, "You should sign up for this TechPoint blog or this TechPoint thing that comes out every week. They'll send you all the jobs that are available." So ultimately, one day I found a job. They posted a job that was at TechPoint that just looked pretty cool. So I went ahead and applied, and ultimately it worked out. And for me, I have a passion for helping people get from good to great. And TechPoint gives me an opportunity to do that through our programs, right? Like, so we find someone that's great, and then we put them through a professional development experience that helps them to be more polished and better, and get a better job, coming out. So it's a tremendously energizing experience for me to be able to kind of be an evangelist and go out across the state and tell the good news about all the things that are happening here in a city that I love. So I was telling my man in the back that I'm from Florida, right? Like I'm not even from Indiana. And came to Indiana to go to school, and just everything that happened when I got here. So I moved to Indiana in 2009, and the face of this whole city has changed since then. In the course of these last 10 years, it's a completely different place, right? There was a time when you wouldn't go out downtown when I first got here, right? And I think the day I moved here was like one of the days, like one of the first days that the airport was open. So I come in, it's this beautiful airport, right? It's like, what's going on here? There's something different about this place. And then I went to Butler. So my freshman year, we went to the Final Four, and it was in Indianapolis, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing ever. And then the Colts went to the Super Bowl. I was like, all these things are happening. Like, this is a really interesting place. And then 2 years later, we hosted the Super Bowl. And I was like, what is going on here? Right? Like, Indianapolis is really moving. So through that time, I found tech, and I found out about all the money that's been moving here. And I just thought that there can't be a better place for me to kind of jump in and get involved, right? So for me, TechPoint was about, working for TechPoint was about helping move this ecosystem in the city to a better place, right? Like, I wanted everybody to see what I see in Indianapolis. So that's kind of what's exciting for me. I think that I just think this is a great place. I really do. And I'll be here for this is where I'm going to live. So does that answer your question? Yeah, for sure. I love it here. And for people like me who are involved in sports, like the next 5 years are even better, right? We're going to get another Final Four. We're going to get a couple of different the NBA All-Star Game, right? Like there's a lot of things happening here that make this a really exciting place to be. Even without tech, right? Like take all the tech out of it, it's still cool. It's still a cool spot.
What's your favorite cereal?
What is my favorite cereal? Captain Crunch. Still, Captain Crunch. Plain Captain Crunch. So the last week when we were here, when we didn't have everybody on the live stream, I did an icebreaker with asked everybody what their favorite cereal was. So, good stuff. What other questions do you have? Did you guys get out of today what you were expecting to get out? And if you came for a specific reason you didn't, what is it that you wanted to know?
What are the coolest companies that...
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble with being recorded on that. I will not. No. Every single one of them is amazing. No, there's a lot of great opportunities. So I would say Indianapolis is a business-to-business town. So a lot of the organizations that are here are selling directly to other organizations. So they're not necessarily the sexy kind of brands that you probably already heard of, right? But these are massive companies that are making a lot of good money, right? So there's definitely some things that you probably wouldn't have heard of that would surprise you. And just some fantastic organizations here. I think Salesforce, for example, is like one of has been voted the #1 employer in the country for like the last 2 or 3 years. So that's one that is that's highlightable. But there's a ton of small and early stage companies as well that frankly have better flexibility and more opportunity for you to kind of grow up and take on more responsibilities. So I think that it's hard to say, but I think there's probably something for everybody here if you just know, if you kind of do that research. Catch up with me afterwards.
Is Salesforce part of TechPoint?
Yeah.
What about Infosys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, speaking of Infosys, have you talked with them recently about their need for workers?
They have a couple different major commitments. So I say that they're 100% hiring and definitely growing, right? So it is. I think that I have not spoken to Infosys recently, but the last couple times that I've talked to them, it was all about talent and all about trying to find as many people as they possibly can. So I think that's an opportunity that's definitely here. Also, just Infosys in general, right? Like one of the largest IT service companies in the world. Okay, they chose to have their North American headquarters here, right? And to have their education headquarters in Indianapolis. That should be telling you something, right? We're definitely on the map. Great question. Well, I don't want to hold you hostage either, but I just want you to know that I'm here and available. So, what other questions? Any other questions from online?
No.
Have they all signed off? Are they still here?
Yeah, pretty steady.
Hi, friends.
Yeah. And if you have any questions that pop up that you want to ask Al later, this is his email address.
Okay.
Really concise, and I put it up on
And
the website too.
so for the purpose of clarification, that is not me directly. That is someone in our office, because I'm on campus a lot. I'm terrible at email. Okay. So if you have any questions, we have someone in the office that answers that email all the time. So exit.techpoint.org, definitely check us out.
Would they forward it to you?
They will 100% forward it to me. Yes,
Right.
if it's one that's specific to me, she will forward it for sure.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you get it. If someone has a question just for you.
But I say, if Fran sees this live stream and hears that I'm claiming that email, she will not be pleased with
Okay.
it. So.
All right.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate you coming out. And I will be here for the next, 30 minutes or so. So if you have any questions for me, one-on-one that you didn't want to ask in front of everyone, I'm here for you. All right. So thank you again for your time. Hope I will see you at the resume review and interview tips. So.
When's that happening?
The 20th?
That's right.
Yes.
It's the Wednesday, March 20th, I think,
And you have to go onto Hire ID to reserve your spot, because spaces are limited. We're just doing it in a computer lab, so there's 24 seats. And then on the 18th, I believe, we're also doing a LinkedIn workshop as well.
That's not me.
And that's not you. It's Ariel Crawley from the Indie Works Highway program, that she's going to be running that as well.
So we'll talk. We'll talk some general things that are a little bit different about tech resumes, and then we'll also just talk some general helpful hints that I find for interviews, right? Some things to keep in mind. So it'll be a good day.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thanks, Patty.